2. Hey, everybody, welcome to another Rainmaker podcast. And today we got a dandy on. We got Daniel Gomez, and he's going to be talking about how you can have a millionaire mindset. Daniel, my man, welcome to the Rainmaker podcast. It's great to have you on.
My brother Arturo, man, I'm pumped up. I'll tell you what, I was looking forward to today, and I'm ready to add some value to your audience, man. And it was such a blessing to meet you at 8%, brother. I loved your energy, your vibe, and I'm honored to be here with you, my brother.
For sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where just to kind of take a step back, right? Going to an event, like I see so many people hesitant about doing it. I see so many people not really thinking about the depth of it, but they're just like, oh, I don't want to spend that kind of money to go to an event like that. And if it wasn't for going to this event, I wouldn't have been able to meet such amazing people, particularly one of them being you, where we were able to hit it off at such a deep level where we knew that we were destined to meet each other and definitely gonna build a friendship. So it was definitely great to connect. And so for those people who don't go to events, man, what do you think about that last one and how it impacted your life?
Well, this is the truth: is that your mind is programmed, right? When people think, I ask this question all the time in my trainings, Arturo. I say, well, what's your mind? And they're like, well, yeah, it's right here. It's your brain. I go, no, it's not your brain. Your brain is your brain. Your mind is a biosphere around you, which includes, right, your nervous system, your soul, who you are. It's your mindset is everything around you, your experiences. And that's what the biggest mistake that people make. And the reason I bring that up is because when you put yourself in bigger rooms in like 8% and you meet higher level people like yourself, Cody Askins, Eric Thomas, were there with DT just in the Q&A, and it was powerful. Well, the thing is that energy is higher. And when you get in a room with energy that's bigger than you are, it expands your belief system. It expands your mind. And that's where the breakthroughs come. And maybe not that moment, but the thing is this, is that you have to realize this, ladies and gentlemen, you are your best investment. Let me say it again. You watching this right now. If you're not willing to invest $1,000 in yourself, $2,000 in yourself, how do you expect other business owners to invest in you and your business if you don't even have the confidence to believe and bet on yourself? And I have a saying that's pretty right. I train this to my entry level group. Is this is right, and to get over that fear, because you have to condition yourself to say yes sometimes, right? Whatever I spend comes back to me times 10. Let me say it again. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever you spend comes back to you times 10, but make it personal. Everything I spend comes back to me times 10.
Yeah, man. And that's so good because I just got off a call and I felt like I was having a conversation with a young lady and she could see the results. But when it came down to the investment, and it was just for a smaller lead package that I had, which was like $1,250. Like she just had the most resistance. And there's a saying that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? And so if you want to attract the best customers, like you said, you need to become, your ideal customer. And most people have the biggest resistance when it comes time to pay for something, which is very interesting. But the high achievers, the people with the millionaire mindset, knows that it's an investment in ourselves, right? And so most people are looking for 10, 11, maybe 100 ways to like how they're going to get a return. But if you could get one or two nuggets from going to a conference or coaching program or going on a business retreat, those one to two ideas could be $1 million ideas that could change your business. And so on that part of investing, right, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. If you're not confident enough to invest in yourself, how can you ask other people to invest with you, right?
Well, you know what? I love that because I have the answer for that. That young lady or whoever she was is the reason she wasn't willing to invest in herself. We talk about this in our book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind, available on Audible also, is I talk about the employee mindset. And when you have the employee mindset, you see everything as a cost. You don't see it as an investment. And what keeps most people, right? We're here in this 9 to 5 over here. We make the conscious decision physically to leave that 9 to 5, but mentally we're still over here and we're thinking like that 9 to 5. Or so when we come back over here, we don't have that business mindset yet and that millionaire mind. And then that's where we self sabotage. And that's why most businesses, right? For all the businesses that started brand new in January this year, within 5 years, over 90% will be out of business, Arturo.
That's gold. And yeah, I mean, like I'm a big mindset guy. A lot of people think it's kind of woo woo, but it's one of those things that is the invisible hand that like walks you through to success. And people are like, I've got the same script, I've got the same business, I got the same product to sell. Why is it that people have vastly different outcomes? And it's mainly because of their mindset, right?
Yeah. That's a huge component of it, and one thing also to add to that, definitely one thing that you got to get comfortable with, and one thing that we talk about in the millionaire mind, the makings of a millionaire mind, is this: is that you have to not be scared of being exposed. You have to go out there and know that you can't be the best kept secret. There might be somebody that's less talented than you, that doesn't know what you know in insurance, in entrepreneurship, in speaking, in training and coaching like I do. But guess what? If they have more exposure and they have less experience, but they're getting the exposure, they're going to beat you every time. So you got to embrace the spotlight. You got to embrace being out there. And the big thing is this: you got to learn that they're buying you. You are the product. You know, you're a branding coach. Before they buy any product, before they buy any book from DG Enterprises, right? Because we do book publishing also. Before they buy a book from us, they're buying Daniel Gomez, they're buying my team, and they're buying the energy that we bring. So you are the brand. And if you don't have the confidence to present yourself, to sell yourself, and to understand that in business, with zero revenue, you're going to be out of business very, very quickly. And we found that out, Arturo, in 2020, when everything was shut down. The businesses that didn't have any revenue, which didn't grow from that, they went out of business. The ones that kind of hung over to 2021, that didn't pivot the right way with the old mindset, they stayed in that trap. Guess what? They were out of business before you know it. And now I look back and where's that coach I used to always be around? Where's that speaker that was right? But it goes back to your foundation. You have to have the millionaire mind. You have to have business savvy, and you can't be scared of offering your services, because the truth is this: is people need Arturo Johnson. People need Daniel Gomez Inspires, because we are the solution for their problems. That needs to
Yeah,
be
man.
your attitude.
Yeah, 100%. And I love it, man. This has got me fired up. So let's take a step back, man. Who is Daniel Gomez and what is the millionaire mind?
Man, Daniel Gomez is just a gentleman who stumbled across the position that he has right now, and I don't mean that. I mean that in all seriousness, because my goal was to buy a dealership. Right, I ran a Chevrolet dealership for many years. I've made millions of dollars for the owners of the dealership, and I bled Chevrolet blue. In 2017, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to make a decision: was I going to hire somebody to take care of my wife, or was I going to man up and be a man and take care of my wife? And I made a decision because my wife had a double mastectomy. She was depressed. She went through 3 major surgeries right away. And I had to be a husband. And I resigned from the automotive with the intentions of going back. And when I resigned, I just heard this whisper in God say, "You're going to be a motivational speaker. You're going to go speak to the world." And man, I believed it. Don't ask me why, but in my heart, I just received it. And everybody laughed at me or two. Everybody thought I was crazy, because I was making 200,000, 250,000, $250,000 a year in the automotive industry, almost 20 years there.
Mm,
But I was strong enough, my faith in God, to believe that if God called me to it, He was going to bring me through it. And now, who would have ever? I would have never dreamed that I would have the house. Our other house was paid off. I mean, we had it clear, right? Because we did well in the automotive, but never did I think that our life would 10x and we'd be in the house where we're at right now. And the beautiful thing is, I'm not done yet, because I want to inspire people and understand that, hey, you don't need a college degree. You don't need to be the smartest person. Sometimes you just need to have more faith in God and believe it for yourself. Because, right, we don't rise to our level of education. We don't rise to our level of knowledge and skill set. We fall to our level of worthiness. Whatever we feel we're worthy and deserving of, right? We don't rise. Let me say it again, because somebody missed that. You don't rise to your level of education and MBA and PhDs. You fall to your level of what you believe you deserve. And if you have a low deservingness level, right? If you don't believe you deserve it, then according to your fate, be it done unto you. And that's why most people will have a breakout year or a breakout month, and then they self sabotage, and then next thing you know, we've all known those people. They earn it, right? 1 month, a year. We'll just give them a year. They're on top of the world, and all of a sudden, they don't have the proper foundation because they don't believe they deserve it, and they self sabotage it some way somehow.
Yeah,
And
man. So good, so good. And so you talked about being in the midst of a storm and kind of going through something with your wife. Looking back at that now, like what were some of the lessons that you learned, and how's that inspired you to live your life now on the other side of the storm?
you want me to be honest with you? The truth of the lessons is I didn't realize how much pain I had inside myself. I was banged up, shameful, had some resentment in me, had some unforgiveness, had betrayal I had to deal with. So I had shame, guilt, regret, and unforgiveness. And a lot of the unforgiveness was towards myself as a husband, as a father, that I could have been better, right? And I think that for me, that was the biggest awareness when I looked in the mirror, Arturo, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't like who I saw at one moment. And I realized that I had to change. And it took me almost losing my wife to realize that, Daniel, you're the problem, man. And if you don't know that, though, you don't know. And many men out there, and I'm not picking on men, but I want men to understand it because you're the leader of the home. You're the one supposed to lead your wife and your family by example. It's like sometimes we cover that in alcohol, we cover that in drinking, we cover that in drugs, we cover that in food, whatever it may be, right? Maybe you're a sports addict. There's so many addictions that we try to fill that regret, that void with. And the truth is, man, I had to really just come back to God and have Jesus really be the center of my life. And I didn't realize how much shame I had inside myself, to be honest with you. And I don't have a problem saying that because
Yeah,
somebody needs
man.
to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. But I resonate with that because I can remember back in 2015, I was waiting tables and I was partying all the time, making good money in service industry. Look, my life was good. Just bought a house and everything. And then my mom got sick and she ended up with having a heart attack and then an aneurysm like 11 days later while I was in Mexico on vacation. And then when I come back, they say she's got ovarian cancer. So that whole thing just startled my whole world. And I can remember going through that process that I just had so much guilt about not being there, missing the calls and resenting this and doing all that. Well, I just hadn't stepped up and lived my life to the fullest, and it woke me up. And when that happened, I just continued to start living my life on fire. And from that moment on, right? I've been on a tear where it was just like, I am no longer going to live a mediocre, unfulfilled, underwhelming, low energy, vibrating life. I'm going to be thankful, joyous, and I'm going to share whatever I have that's goodness in my heart with everybody. And that's what I've been doing ever since 2015, man. So thanks for sharing that because that just reminded me of from the beginning of like where these things started that reignited that fire. And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes we got to get knocked off. We got to be blind for a few days. Face got to be grinding in the dirt for us to find our way. So yeah, man, that's good. So walk me through how that transitioned over to this mindset thing and how you're starting to help people and who you're helping now.
Well, when I first came out of the gates, I was a right straight up speaker, motivational speaker, and right, I was used to making a higher salary. So for me, I ran a multi-million dollar business. So I didn't realize. I think when I took a step back, I didn't realize how much business wisdom I had already. Right, how much of a business person inside of me that I was. That was already in my DNA. And so when I started my business, boom, we did six figures. I spoke. I think the first year I made exactly $100,900. And then the next year we went a little bit higher. And then next thing you know, we wrote our first book. And then now, right, then people started asking me for advice. And I'm like, hell, I don't know, right? Because I hadn't embraced the identity of a coach yet. And then I just felt one day in my spirit, God said, charge them. I'm like, charge them. So the first time somebody paid me $500 for 2 sessions, I was like having a heart attack because it was like, we're used to thinking $20 an hour is a lot of money, right? $40 an hour. So somebody gives me $500 for an hour of my time. I'm like, what the heck, right? But I had to learn how to receive that. So once I embraced the identity of being a business coach, man,
Yeah.
it just took off from there, and I realized that I had more money awareness than what I knew. Of course, I've grown so much these past going on 6 years already because I've done the work. I've invested close to almost $400,000 already. By the end of this year, I'll be close to 400. Yeah, I'll be at 400,000, and because I was tying it up. But think about that. I'm close to $500,000 of investing in myself, and people wonder why they're not growing. Is because you have to invest money in you. Because if you don't, you have to invest money in your business. If you don't, it's never going to grow. And I'm grateful, right? You people want to make right. If you're counting dollars, you're never going to make hundreds. If you're counting hundreds, you're never going to make thousands. If you're counting thousands, you're never going to make hundreds of thousands. And if you're counting hundreds of thousands, you're for sure never going to make millions. So get out of that poverty mindset and get this is a write this down, ladies and gentlemen. You must get used to bigger numbers. You must get used to bigger numbers. I challenge you next time, ladies and gentlemen, go out to dinner, and if the bill's $500, pay the damn bill. If the bill's $1,000, pay it. Because the first time I put myself at a steakhouse in Nashville, Texas, we're on the top of the Hyatt, the JW Marriott, I think in the Hyatt. There was some steakhouse there, and I was like, you know what? I said I'm going to pay the bill, guys. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. The bill came. It was 1,000 something. I'll admit, Arturo, I had sticker shock, but you know what? That unlocked me to a whole other level because I challenged myself and I was okay with paying. It was $1,296.
Yes. You know what's funny about that? Because it's so true. And like I was telling this lady this, and I was like, this isn't for you to like buy something from me. These are principles. And the best thing about physics that I learned is that any principle that applies to one principle in physics also applies to the other ones to make those work. And so when you said applying that principle to playing with bigger numbers, I asked her how much she wanted to make, and she said, what did she say? She said she was making 50,000 a year. I was like, well, let's talk about 50,000 a month. And she did it like this, and she had like a 55% comp. So I did the numbers. I was like, you need to write 90,000, and you need to have this amount of appointments. You need to sit with 35 people a week. And when I started doing those numbers, she was just like that was impossible. And I was like, no, like that's not a lot. That's just 7 people a day for 5 days in a week. Like that means you're working. That's 7 hours. It's like last time I checked, 8 hours is full time, right? So that's like full time. She's like, oh, and I was like, you have to learn to start playing with bigger numbers. Like on my board, I got 100 million right here, right? And that means that if I want to make 100 million, I need to invest $500,000 a week into marketing and advertising to get known to make $100 million. So playing with
Yeah.
big numbers, it shows you that they're really not that big. It's just adding zeros to it. But also, when you get comfortable with it, right, you realize that this is an infinite game. The same effort and energy that it takes to make 20,000, right, you can make 2,000. 200,000. And the cool thing is with math is you could just move the zero. So instead of selling something like your time, that's only going to allow you to make 2,000, right? You can sell a product that could make you 200. But they're both choices. And so it is a mindset shift and switch, but it starts with you doing the things internally. And everybody just wants the tactics and the strategies. But again, tactics and strategies, the limitation to those are the 2 lowest levels of learning. So you guys might want to get a pen and write this down. So number 1, all right. So there are 4 levels of learning. The lowest level of learning is tactics. You ever notice that like when you give somebody a script and tell them to say this, they can't get the same result as you, right? It's because you're just telling them what to do. And that's the only thing that they know. The second level is strategies. And this is where you tell people the how and the when. So you tell them what to do and you tell them how and the when. And now they try to repeat those things, but they're doing it like you instead of like them. And that's the second level, which is strategies. And it doesn't break through till you can create ultimate wealth until you understand the third highest level, which is principles. And what I said about principles is the amazing thing about a principle is a microcosm of everything else. So if the same principles that apply to making a plane fly also can make your business grow and make your finances soar. And most people don't understand the principles of things, the how, what, and why it works. And then the highest level of learning is essence. And this is the nature and the character of a thing. See, we all have an internal nature and an essence in things. And when you understand what your internal nature and your eternal essence is, and you operate in that, that is where your purpose is. And that unlocks that highest level of value for you, your life, and your business.
Boom, baby, boom! Look at him.
Yeah.
I ignited a fire, my brother, and I love what you're saying because, but you know, one of the main reasons you just gave them the strategy, right? They can have the 4 things, but you know what's going to even hinder them above that is that they don't believe it for themselves.
Mm.
You just made a comment on it, right? You have the same leads, same products, same everything. Why does Joe go here and then Rudy falls down here? Because it's always easier to believe it for somebody else than it is to believe it for yourself. Let me say it again. It's always easier to believe it for somebody else than to believe it for yourself. And the reason is this is because, right? If they make it, man, I was rooting for you. You did it, boom. But if they fail, you're like, I told you you shouldn't have done it. So that way you don't have to put yourself in that pressure point and you won't be criticized whether you make it or not. You know what? You have to give yourself permission to fall on your face a couple of times. And boy, Arturo, have I fallen on my face a couple of times. And
Yes.
I don't call it failure, right? Because failure, it hurts, but when you fall on your face, man, you feel that stuff, brother. You feel it.
Yes. But it's the journey, right? Because like I documented my entire journey. So as I went through those things and those failures that was so painful then, as I look back on those things, because I'm creating something right now, just like a new offer for entrepreneurs, masterminds that want to get into coaching. But as I started to like search down some of those photos of me sleeping on an air mattress with no furniture and having a negative $90 checking in and savings account. And I look back over those things, like that journey is for me to step back across that bridge and say, hey, I know where you were because I've been there. And I had to borrow someone else's belief to inspire me to take action, to pick up that book, to start listening to Jim Rohn, to dust myself off and have some self-image, to get back in the word, to start going back to church or get in the gym or whatever it is. I needed to borrow someone else's belief just to get some energy so that I can start to turn my life around. And once I did that, that's when everything changed for me. So yeah, this is been absolutely amazing. So how are you helping people now, and where can people find you?
Well, I'm helping people because right. As a matter of fact, this weekend we're having our Millionaire Mind Mastermind Weekend retreat here at our house, and we have two big events. You see behind me right here, Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. We have it every March and
Mm,
every September here in San Antonio, Texas. And we don't just show you how to speak, right? We show you how to build a speaking business. We show
yes.
you how to make more money in 1 hour than what most people make in a month. Let me say it again. Yes, you heard me right. You make more in 1 hour than what most people make in a month. How is that possible? Because the average professional keynote, we're going to show you how they'll pay you between five to $10,000 locally where you're at, especially if you're in a big city like Dallas, Nashville. It's possible because I've done it. Our students have done it. A great example is Tony Pollard came in from September to September part time. Full time school administrator made over $70,000.
Mm,
Second of all, I want to hear from you because I want to see you on stage at Sticker Shock. And we give you the good. The one thing is this is that it's not a school where you come and we give it to you on paper. No, we don't give it to you on paper. We're going to coach you and train you at the event, 2 day workshop, and then you're going to be on a professional stage. And that's where most people mess up because they've never had that experience of really being on a stage. And then when they get on stage, many people freeze up. So we coach you and guide you
mm,
through that. And then the second big event that we have twice a year is our Millionaire Mind Boot Camp. And we have that in May and November. And we have that here in San Antonio, Texas. So we come in, it's a 2 day boot camp. And man, we hit it hard. And what I mean by that is like people have breakthroughs, they cry, they don't realize that, right? To increase the bottom line in your business, you must change. You must become a better individual. And most people, Arturo, don't realize the relationship they have with money and they don't realize that they have so many abandonment or insecurity issues inside of them, right? Because the thing is this is that if you're a business owner and you're stuck, you're the lid for your business. Inside again, you're the lid for your business. And I'm telling myself that too because I want to go to another level. So I'm continuously raising the lid. So when you come to the boot camp, then we invite you to the mastermind weekend retreat that we're having this weekend at my house. Yes, at my house, because we want you to taste that dream. We want you to get in the luxury swimming pool. We want you to drive the golf course around and get the feel of, man, this is what I can drive my golf cart into my own garage. I can drive a convertible sports car. And it's not about the material things. Don't get me wrong. It's about getting in the environment where your optics, your eyes take it in and you're like, wow. Because once you get in an environment, kind of what Arturo was saying earlier in those conferences, your belief system unlocks. And then you start to believe it's possible for me. You know why? Because God did it for Arturo and God can do it for Daniel. He can do it for me. So reach out to me. Daniel at danielgomezspeaker.com. That's Daniel at danielgomezspeaker.com. I'll give you a free 45-minute discovery session just to give back to your community, Arturo. And text the word 210 942 5059. That's 210 942 5059. Text the word millionaire to that number, and you're going to get some millionaire quotes, inspirations, and some great ideas to expand your belief system.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for you and your event coming up and everything else you got going on. Definitely loved hanging out with you and I'm looking forward to doing some things together in the future for sure. Daniel, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for hopping on the Rainmaker podcast, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody.